Raised Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm old who.
Oh, Doctor, you're such a fool. Did you really think your ephemeral mind could defeat me?
And I'm Victoria Wheeler. I'm new who.
Lost. All that awaits is your ultimate destruction.
And we are going to go a-racing amongst the stars with Peter Davidson. We are up to the story Enlightenment, about halfway, a little more. And I've got some interesting thoughts on this, so let's jump to the synopsis. Enlightenment. Serial 6-8. Writer, Barbara Clegg. Director, Fiona Cumming. Script editor, Eric Sayward. Producer, John Nathan Turner. Originally aired March 1st, 1983 to March 9th, 1983. The White Guardian alerts the Doctor to a greater danger. The TARDIS rematerializes on Captain Stryker's Edwardian racing yacht, which turns out to be a space vessel participating in a planet-spanning race of Eternals, aliens of awesome mind powers but no imagination. The prize is Enlightenment, and it is fiercely coveted by Buccaneer Captain Rack, who has been using the Black Guardian's power to destroy rival ships. The Black Guardian hopes that, with Enlightenment, the Eternals will spread chaos through time and space. Rack uses Tegan in a plot to destroy Captain Stryker's ship, but the Doctor foils her. Turlo helps the Doctor throw Rack overboard, and together they win the race. The two Guardians banish the remaining Eternals and offer Enlightenment in the form of a crystal. The Doctor refuses it, and Turlo throws the crystal at the Black Guardian, thereby severing his bond with the evil ended. This story ends the Black Guardian storyline introduced in the Ribos Operation Serial 5A. Again, another amazing synopsis from the Doctor Who Program Guide, the complete guide to every Doctor Who story by Jean-Marc Lafayette. Get your copy now. Again, another amazing synopsis from the Doctor Who Program Guide, the complete guide to every Doctor Who story by Jean-Marc Lafayette. Get your copy now. All right, that was a wonderful synopsis from the Doctor Who Program Guide. I'm going to go first on this one.
Okay.
This is one that I have always enjoyed a great deal because it is when they push the envelope in storytelling in some. It's not Base Under Siege. It's not the Daleks or the Cybermen coming back. And I think this is, especially in the Davidson era, where there are some really good stories, and there's some, I think, I agree with you that some weaker ones, like the next one we're going to do, is one I dislike a great deal. But I really enjoy this one because I think it looks good, and I think it works as a little more, I don't say highbrow science fiction instead of, traditional, Doctor Who. It's not the Web Planet breaking bound, you know what I mean? But it is definitely them going, let's try this. Mm-hmm. And they find a way to use some of what their good skill sets are, like, well, let's set all the boats on different historical periods that we have stock sets in, So I really enjoy this one. I think it's got a good guest cast. I think the Davidson is given more stuff to do. Mm-hmm. We get to see kind of like the Fifth Doctor that we hear in Big Finish, mm-hmm. especially in later ones, and Tegan's got something to do. Turlo, I like Turlo as a companion, and I like Mark Strickson's performance of Turlo. Sometimes he's given better things to do, and I think for the most part in this one, if anyone's getting the short stick, it's Turlo.
Jimmy Fallon's shtick that he does about tight pants?
No.
I got my tight pants on.
Yeah. Okay.
That's Turlo. Turlo is John Nathan Turner in this episode. There's so many shots of Turlo's ass in his super tight pants. It's problematic.
Yeah, and this is what, and this I want to say this too. This is the first time it written and directed by women, and not done again until the Witchfinders.
Yep. Yeah. No, and you can tell.
I think you can tell because when she's the director, not Barbara.
Is that Fiona Cummings?
Fiona Cummings. It's a great director, and Barbara Clegg, who wrote it. It's a good story. I mean, it is. It's got a strong female part.
It's got a wonderful Tegan's experience on this ship is fantastic.
Yes, it is.
And that's just, it's not even a story that gets told as much now as it should. This is that men who say, but I like you, so you'll stay.
And she's like, No, you're oogie and creepy, and you're rummaging around in my brain,
Yeah.
which kind of plays back to Kenda and Snake Dance. It's like, I don't like it when people fiddle in my head.
Right. Well, nobody should, and she has learned some skills, but also it lacks consent, right? All of his behavior towards her lacks consent, and it is a universal experience for women my age, certainly, that we were expected to appreciate attention like that.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
And he's so good. The actor, the performances
Yeah.
of him and the captain, because the Edwardian guys, Stryker and his crew, they are true Eternals. And I like the concept of the Doctor meeting God.
Yeah.
Or a species that are like, because when he realizes they're eternal, there's a scene where Peter Davison gives a great look where the guy's going, we live and we are eternal. It's time, such a small thing as time.
Yeah.
And he has that look like, because he knows it, even I think Davison kind of, I don't know if he grasped that, but to me it looks like he's realizing I'm dealing with something out of my realm.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he doesn't take it. There's parts of you that thinks he's heard of them before. Right?
Yeah, he never really states it, but he's thinking about it.
No, I mean, I think my take on this is that it doesn't age. All right. And that in that it is this 82? 82 or 83?
Yeah.
That makes it roughly the same age as Empire Strikes Back. And I understand that Lucas had special technology that they'd worked out and that it was incredibly expensive. But those sails on those ships are horrifying.
And seeing it, because I watch both. I watch half of the special edition on the D, which has new special effects in it, and I think it is my preferred way of watching. But since we were going to talk about it, I felt I needed to watch the original version. And watching it on that giant TV in my office is like, what the poopy?
I know.
And it's grainy because it hasn't been
I know.
remastered yet. It's not one of the series. If this had been remastered on the Blu-ray, it may look a bit better. And I actually kind of shrink them down sometimes by changing the aspect on my TV because they're not meant to be seen that.
I know, but they still look kind of cheesy.
Yeah, but
so
I think
it doesn't age particularly well. There are some lines in here also that are difficult. Like when what is it that she's using? The focus? What's in the focus? Right?
Yeah.
And his answer is darkness. And it's like I would have preferred. Wibbly wobbly timey. Like I would have preferred
a little
explanation.
A little more technobabble.
A little technobabble, because darkness. And I was like, come on, man. Like it, and it is beautiful to look at. There's those
when you're on the boats,
wood hallways. I know,
and I like even the spacesuits, and I like the idea.
I love seeing. Right? And how infrequent is it that we actually see these people who are traveling through space get into the getup that we associate with space, right?
Yeah.
Like you can remember the orange space suit that 10 puts on to go down to speak to the beast below, or
and that becomes kind of like modern Who. That's the go-to spacesuit for the Doctor. Is that same orange brand?
Orange one, right? Because I got an orange one, right? But it doesn't happen very often. Those things are memorable.
Yeah,
in the times
especially in old Who.
There.
Because when we see the future, it is Buck Rogers, it is Flash Gordon future, it is
and
next
these
generation.
are good looking. These are good looking spacesuits.
They are
too.
really. It's a nice design.
It's
I
a
think
nice
what
design.
I like about this
And
one,
they're
and
pretty
there are
solid.
why I continued on, and there are some bad and there's some bad dodgy, and the ending.
I mean the pigeon.
Yeah, the dead.
The crow looks all right, but the pigeon.
It's like that's
maybe,
unsanitary. The crow's at least not a filthy pest. Okay, pigeons are dirty.
Honestly, it looks like one of my golden retriever puppy's toys.
It is. But I do kind of. I've never been
sort of sucked on and wet.
I've never been the biggest fan of the Black Guardian, White Guardians, but it's more because of I don't. In the Key to Time, you see the White Guardian and you find out that it was always the Black Guardian. Blah 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 blah.
Wouldn't it have been best if they had just had the same actor in the two costumes?
Thank you. I think it would have been, because it would have been polar. I understand why you picked those two actors.
Yeah, I mean, they're both good actors, but the minute that I see the two of them, and again, this part of it is that we don't get to see the Key to Time. We haven't yet seen Key to Time.
Yeah, we have. That was Tom Baker. This is revenge. The Black Guardian's trying to get the Doctor.
We haven't seen Key to Time yet. We've still got Baker seeing Sarah Jane, Sarah Jane. We got years to go, right? I have seen the Key to Time, and I do like it as like a, that heist one is great, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stories in the Key to Time.
There's some good stories with Romano one. I like that. I like that theme, but I haven't watched. I haven't critically watched any white Guardian stuff.
Yeah, because this is the first time we would have seen him.
Well, we have watched.
We've discussed him, yeah.
But we have watched Trial of the Time Lord.
Yeah, and I think the Black Guardian works okay in Modern Undead. I don't know. In Terminus, there's a lot of stuff going on. We talked about it. Tegan and Turlo spending it in an air.
Yeah.
But this one I always like. I kind of forgive a lot of because so much, I think more of it is good than bad.
There is a modernity to the storytelling that makes it very different. It's no longer Base Under Siege, right? And About Time talks about it in terms of being very first doctory. That we discover what's going on truly at the same time the Doctor does.
I agree with that. I think that what it was refreshing is because I really kind of preferred Davidson's performance in this one, because I like David. He was my Doctor until Matt Smith came along, and I like his Big Finish stuff now.
Yeah,
it took a couple years for them to get him the right material.
Well, and I think it's short-sighted of Peter Davison to always say that he thought the Fifth Doctor worked best with Nyssa. I
think that's so untrue. I think he worked so much better with Tegan.
Yeah.
And they're good together, and they're really good.
Because I say this with deep love and affection. There's lots of people in my life who are on the autism spectrum, and that's how Nyssa and the Fifth Doctor tend, I think, to bond. Is that they're both a little bit on the spectrum, right?
I get that for him.
There's this sharing of data that makes them feel very comfortable, but they operate comfortably next to each other because they see the world the same way.
Exactly.
And that isn't interesting to storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why he and Tegan,
Tegan, who is just id.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But what gets me is that I kind of like, I prefer what we're going, because, and there's some rough stuff in his last season, because Eric Saward, I agree with what I've heard in other podcasts and read now, that I don't think Eric Saward likes the Doctor, because he doesn't like the Doctor as companions, because he really gives other people more stuff to do. Mm-hmm. But I do like the chemistry of this TARDIS. I think Tegan, Turlo, and Davidson, I find it more engaging. I find it more interesting. I find that they take iffier dialogue and better.
Yeah, and there's also there's a trust issue that's going on between everybody.
And it's growing.
But he brings it up at the beginning. I need somebody I can rely on. Right? So it has to be Tegan, right? And you can sense his discomfort in saying that. But, right? So there are just good pieces of information about the changing relationships now that Nissa's gone. And it is much more interesting.
Yeah.
It's a much more interesting triangle.
It is. I think it works much better. I think the direction in this it's just really strong, because there's some choices made, like the TARDIS opens up and the power's being drained. That's a beautiful. The lights are all red and Turlo's playing chess.
Yeah.
Kind of
losing.
Huh?
And losing
to Tegan.
To Tegan.
But it looks a little better. I think you just there are flaws, but I think is it Linda Bell? No, who's plays the pirate queen from the woman from Last Chance Salute?
Right.
She is. I dig her. I dig her performance in this. I like Linda Barron. Barron. She's great in it. And I think the captain of Stryker and Mariner, his first mate, are very good. They really kind of get it, and it works. I think where it falls apart is sometimes the special effects, and I think the giant room that Turlo gets trapped in with the hole into space is dodgy set-wise. I think at this time they're still doing. I'm less forgiving nowadays, I guess, set-wise. But I think overall it works a lot better than some of the other. It's definitely I think it's better than Modern Undead in some ways. I think it's way better than Terminate, and it's way better than the one we got to watch in a few months, a rough one. I'm glad I mentioned it online, and I wanted to bring this up because you and me are watching this as we saw this. I saw it the first time when I was in my 20s. You saw it the first time you saw it when you're 30.
40s.
40s, okay. But Jeff and Side Jump, I shared someone to put because it was the 40th, the 9th of this month was the 40th anniversary of this first. So it's kind of apropos we're talking about this the week of it. And so I kind of wanted to. I just posted it, and then Jeff chimed in. And this is from someone who saw this as a kid, who this show is meant for.
Little kid, yeah.
Okay. Such a beautiful, weird, utterly enthralling story. What a time to be a fan, watching all these amazing, mind-twisting stories. And then I responded, I may quote you on this.
Yeah.
And he goes, I can also confirm that as a kid, I thought the Black Guardian was the biggest, baddest bad guy in all of Doctor Who, rather than someone who actually did pretty much naff all. Cy Hart, who comes on the show every once in a while, he went, wahaha, he was terrifying. And Jeff's response is, yeah. He was the Satan of Doctor Who. The Master was always a rung below after this trilogy. Ha ha. And I get that. If I'm 6, there's what makes the story good is it makes it better. And the dodgy science fiction, the side effects that's what you had in 1983 on television, so you accept it for what it is.
Well, yeah, you would have accepted it as pretty good. Like when they divide up the Buccaneer's face, right? Yeah. When the gem shatters and the face gets divided into multiple parts and everything, that would have been okay. Yeah. Right? It wouldn't have taken you out of it.
Yeah, now on a big 50-inch high-def screen.
On a 50-inch high-def screen, her eyelashes take me out of it.
Yeah, right? I'm that way watching Next Generation. You can see clumps of makeup and the glue where they've glued on Data's wig. Yeah. Or, that Worf's teeth are crooked. Or that the wall is made of plywood, and I can see that where they didn't they didn't putty over the screw heads. Yeah. So yeah. But I mean, overall, I like this one. But these are kind of my favorite Doctor Who stories, where they go and do something different. I mean, one of my I always talk God Complex during the Matt Smith era. Set in a hotel, floating in space with a Minotaur, in rooms with your fears that are going to steal your fate. Yeah. Those are the ones I like. Web Planet, I will. Web Planet, I. Yeah. Well, it looks so dodgy. Yeah, but that took some cojones. And I think this one didn't take a lot of. I just think I don't know. I didn't read a lot about time where it came from and why she wrote this story or why it made the selection. Yeah, but it was a good choice.
They don't seem to have a lot of information about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is one that is so unlike an Eric Sayward era story.
No, it's very much like a First Doctor story.
It is. I think it is. Even when he's eating the dessert. Which probably tasted like shit on take 2 or 3, But that seems like the First Doctor. Like when First Doctor eats, he always, would always I'm putting my fingers to my mouth, and he would just nibble on something as an actor does. It's like I can't take a big bite because I gotta speak. I'm just gotta act like I'm chewing.
Yeah, no, it reminded me of the hot cocoa in the Aztecs.
Okay, yeah, that's.
Yeah, I mean it's just very.
But he is the closest to the First Doctor in a lot of ways.
Intentionally, you can tell.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell. He's an old man in a young man's body.
Is that another thing on the spectrum that sees himself a different way than his own?
Absolutely be.
Yeah, that I may look this way, but I feel this way inside. It's that kid in high school that, especially, that would dress as, I knew a guy in college who only wore 40s clothes. Yeah. Yeah, he was a really nice guy, but he only wore 1940s cut. Yeah. There's
There's
the guy.
a lot of people like that on TikTok.
Yeah. And I get that, it's like I feel this way, even though, and and the assumption of what the exterior package is. And I think when Davidson is given scripts that allow him to lean into that, like this one, it comes off better. I think he really comes off a lot better in the last one. And some of the ones that I have, I agree with you. This is the roughest era for you, isn't it?
Oh, very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard. And I had to wake up really. We have to record a day early, and so I was a little behind, and I had to wake up at 5:30 on a Saturday to finish my second watch through.
Oof. Yeah,
so
I didn't do that. I was going to go finish the special feature and went, I'll watch that later. I got some comics. Leslie was supposed to go out of town. She was going to leave last night. And she told me on the way up, she picked me up from work, so I'm not leaving. Because I was like, I don't want to ignore my wife, but it's like, I got shit I got to do.
I know.
And then me and Vic, and I changed these plans because she wasn't going to be here, so I wasn't going to have to do. So I at 5:30 went into the bedroom and woke the dogs up and fed them and took them for their walk. Yeah. And she goes, why are you doing it so early? It's because you need to leave by 7, and I need to be ready to record, and I don't have time for the dogs. And I can't wait for you to walk them because you'll walk them 15 minutes out the door. And it takes 45 minutes to get a poop out of them. So, but this isn't the greatest one. It doesn't spark a lot. I was happy to see it again. It's always one I enjoy watching. So when I watched it the first time, I was like, oh, it's great. And then I read about, it's just like, it's one of those ones where I know I watched it when this is going to be a shorter episode. I don't think this is going to spark a lot of discussion other than it's a story that I enjoy because I think it's a story well told. I think Barbara Clegg has written an interesting story, and I think Fiona Cummings has done amazing with what she had. And she introduces a special edition on the Blu-ray, which is a lot better. That this is what she saw in her head, and she was very grateful that To Entertain was the people allowed her to do it and thought to do it. And I can't wait to see what it looks like when they eventually do this season in Blu-ray. I don't know what's right now. In 2 weeks, I'll get season 2 in the Blu-ray, and then the next one will get a season 9. So I'm assuming the next one's either going to be Davidson or Tom Baker. So maybe this will be the season because it's his 40th anniversary. It'd be his 41st year as a Doctor. But I would hope they put season 20 out, and this is in season 2. Because 5 Doctors technically isn't part of a season. We'll probably be in that box. So
yeah.
But, we have to do King's Demons as our next Devo story.
I know.
Yeah, so. But
I know, but pretty soon we're going to be into the world of Big Finish with that. Now, are we, is our next one, did we do Apocalypse Element?
Yes, that was the last one we did.
That was the last one we did.
So what is the next Evelyn story?
Well, the next Evelyn story, I think the next 6th story is a Frobisher story. That's a sidestep story.
We had talked about this because we were just going to do, my original plan was just going to do all the Evelyn and her timeline, and then we would pick something else. We'd do the Perrys, do the Mel stuff, or heck, let's do the Flip and Constant because that's so fucking amazing.
So the Project Twilight is the next Evelyn.
All right, let's pause. I would like to do the Frobisher.
Frobisher.
I mean, are you interested in doing the Frobisher ones?
Yeah.
Why don't we
I've listened to it.
There are 2 of them, aren't there? And they're both, one's a 4-parter and one's a single
This is the single sidestep, and it's the first Frobisher.
Which is?
It's a Robert Sherman one. It's called The Holy Terror.
Oh, that's a really weird. I like that one. I like that. So let's do that next. Let's do that next week or 2 weeks. I mean, because Project Twilight, maybe we need to kind of brush up on that. That's the first. That's because that's going to lead into a lot of what she does and is going to give us Hex and
Nimrod and yeah. But so let's do something light in the meantime.
I wouldn't call that one light. It's got Frobisher. It's a little dark. It's a dark one. It's a Sherman one. It's almost as dark as Jubilee.
Yeah.
I can't wait till we get to the pirate, the singing pirate Evelyn.
Yeah.
That'll spark a lot of conversation. So that's next for that, and we haven't decided what we do when we run out of Devo, but we got a whole nother season. We've got 2 more 20 season, and then we got 5. That's years from.
And we're doing, and after that we do survival, right?
Yeah, that one I got a lot. That one is I got a lot.
And then you're gonna finish Time Worm.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
You're gonna.
It's so bad, man. I'm sorry. I used to like John P. I've never
the first of series like this where nobody really believes in them and they just don't have strong editors on board yet.
And they're going for a more adult feel.
But
he leaned into it, and he was told to make this more.
Yeah, and they just didn't have a strong editor on board yet.
Yeah, that's always a problem.
That's clearly what's at issue here.
because everybody tells me the next ones are amazing.
They're great.
All right, so that's but maybe I need to do that. But yeah, that's it, folks. Any recommendations? I have one. I went down I took a pause from other podcasts and I listened to Rachel Maddow do her series about the American Front, which I found an amazing story. I knew what she was talking about, but I didn't know the details.
Right.
And it was very amazing. She's got a great production. She just kind of narrates it, and the interviews are conducted by her, but mostly by her producers.
Right. Now I'm listening. People want to dismiss her as a partisan hack, and I'll accept the partisanship.
But not a hack. She's not a hack.
No. I'll accept that MSNBC is so partisan that it's starting to move off of the news sort of focus for me. I understand that it is really partisan, and therefore not contributing to any reconciliation or healing in this country.
Yeah. But I agree because I'm not a fan of.
She's a Rhodes Scholar.
Yes, and this is scholarly work.
There's nothing hack about her, exactly.
Scholarly work.
She did her PhD thesis on AIDS and the prison system at a time when I had clients with HIV and AIDS in jails and prisons in this country, and so her work is exceptional, and I am thrilled for her that she is getting off of the
talking head circuit.
And doing the work that she loves. And is great.
I highly recommend, I can't remember what the name of that was, but I'm now on another one she did called Bagman, the story of...
Yeah.
And he resigned, and it was something with tax evasion details, but this is a guy that would envelopes of cash in his official office in the White House.
Right.
And in the... was the vice president living in the Naval Observatory by the time? Okay, in the Naval Observatory, which is the vice president's.
Yeah.
Handing envelopes of cash, and I knew he was a piece of crap. He was a corrupt politician from
Maryland,
Baltimore in the 1970s.
I know.
It's that to hear a lawyer cry in this when he's talking about Elliot Richardson, who was the Attorney General, who had 3 young attorneys from Baltimore come up, be pissed off, why am I having a meeting with you when you're not going to tell me why? And when they tell him why, that the vice president is still actively bribed, we caught his successor in his previous position doing it, and we know he is doing it, and instead of just taking it and full caving in or this, he said only the 5 of us are going to discuss it. And he dug down and started acting like he was an attorney in this case because that was the right thing to do. And what could this guy be thinking? And she brings that up. What would he be thinking? The president's already being investigated. He's lost 2 attorney generals because they were implicated. And now you want me to investigate the sitting vice president. So if we take them both down, we're going to remove 2 men that were just elected by landslide from office. And it had never happened in this country. And I'm finding it very engaging because I knew he was a piece of shit.
Right.
But then hearing some of his speeches, which they wouldn't have been played in my fucking house.
Right.
That he sounds like Trump.
Yeah.
It's awful. He's a scary little son of a bitch. And it's a good thing they got him out before Nixon resigned because I can't imagine what a Spiro Agnew president. But they're both, check them out, guys. They're like 6 episodes long. The American Front will make you terrified. It scared the shit out of me. It scared the shit out of me because I was like, we're going through it again. There are politicians in this country who are following that, and it's disgusting. It scares the shit out of me. But it's really good work, and I was in it. It's all I've listened to the last 2 days.
Yeah, one of the great things I was reading I'm going to draw a blank on the name of the book, but I've said before that I really like World War II because it feels really good to know that there are good guys and bad guys, right?
Yeah.
It's very comforting to me.
Yeah,
that
I'm the same way. People go, you grew up in the military, blah, blah, blah. Not all wars are bad. Most American wars are dodgy and iffy. But World War II, you cannot equate that with Vietnam or the Persian Gulf or any of this other stuff.
So I found myself very disturbed as I was reading this one book about a French woman who winds up being part of the resistance. And because we tend to think that there was France, they were invaded, and the part that was invaded was the one that turned Vichy, right? That it was Vichy was just puppets. They were put in place.
It was the part Vichy that wasn't invaded, right?
No. It was the part that supported the Nazis and had lost the last election very narrowly in France.
Okay, I knew that part. Yeah.
So that's what it was so disturbing to me, is that there were two sides. They were sort of regionally distinct, kind of similar. They were regionally sort of distinct, and one of them was fascist in its leanings, and that they narrowly lost the election. And so one of this, the protagonist of the story is frustrated as all get out at all these people who were like, oh, they were terrible. She was like, you were a fan, you invited them in. You
turned over your own countrymen to be sent to their death camps.
Right, but they were happy to have German help, right? They were happy to have German.
It got them into power.
It got them into power, and so for them in later years to flip, right? And my friends whose parents were German, right? I have a bunch of friends my age whose parents were German and remember growing up there during the war and know the stories from their family about who was a collaborator, like who was a
Nazi.
Right, who was a Nazi and who wasn't. And the people who were Nazis were like, we had no idea. And they're like, bullshit, right? Like, so, yeah, it's very, there's a lot of revisionist history because there are an awful lot of really, really powerful Americans who thought the Nazis had it all right. Henry Ford among them, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Henry Ford, people got, we want to... It's that thing we were talking before.
20th century Republicans.
Yeah.
Not 19th century Republicans. 20th century Republicans.
I would prefer a 19th century Republican over a 20th.
Sure. Thaddeus Stevens is more liberal than I am.
Yeah. Is that the one with the wig that had a black wife, right? Yep. Yeah. Tommy Lee Jones plays him in Lincoln. It's a wonderful performance because they don't even hide it. He just gets in bed. Yeah. Takes off this fucked up wig that the dude wore. And it's like liberal, no, this is wrong.
Right.
But no, I agree because it really frightened me. Lindbergh, piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's a fascist.
Absolutely.
Was a straight up fascist.
And they're hiding it in these ideas of eugenics.
Oh
right?
God! And as a Virginian, we're the we didn't get rid of our eugenics crap until 70.
Right.
But I will recommend the movie Amsterdam, starring Denzel Washington, Margot, the Australian actress, Harley Quinn, and oh my God, Christian Bale. Christian Bale. Christian Bale. About a white officer and a black soldier become friends and then meet American artist who's living in France, and then they come back. They're not popular. The white officer he has some trauma and some scarring from gas, and they've made a pact, the three of them, and they've separated now. And there's a murder mystery. This Taylor Swift plays this person. Taylor Swift plays her, and she gets run over because she knows something, and this rich family is in it. And there's this famous general. They change all the names. This general who gives a speech and condemns the front, and De Niro plays it. It's funny. It's well acted. It's beautifully shot, and it's entertaining. But it's terrifying because you see that there are all these businessmen. We want you to do this. And the general is like, you want me to do what? Well, Dick. Can we call you Dick? No. You need to call me General. I went, woo, Channel Hugh, Channel Hugh.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's
tells you how he feels.
And I could see my father me to say, what, really entertaining me. And I saw it after. It's a terrifying. It terrifies me. I see certain politicians in other states. You're using the playbook. You're smart enough. You're not an idiot. You're doing it. And I don't even think you're doing it for any other than glorification. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that with those kind of men and those capitalists, those guys that wanted to keep America out of the war in Europe, were they didn't care anything about any other human being's rights. It was their pocket. It is, that why Capra and a lot of other 30 filmmakers made those guys villains, because they're villains. You see some of those great 30s films, the businessman is not, and they kind of, I can see why the Republicans in the 30s wanted a little more control, wanted the Hayes Commission. They didn't like getting picked on. You can't pick on the whatever, but check it out. I mean, folks, listen to it. It's really, it's an interesting subject. And I think people in England will go, ooh, because the Tories are using the same playbook. Mm-hmm. They went after they're going after a footy presentator because he called them out on their not letting any boats in. And now all these Tories are saying he should be taken off the television. Why? Because he called you a bunch of fascists? Mm-hmm. He said you're using shit that the Nazis did. Mm-hmm. He didn't lie. Mm-hmm. Well, stop emulating the bad guys, and if you don't want to be called a fascist, stop acting like.
Yeah, things are rough over there. They're not showing an Attenborough episode of his newest special series, right? Like he's got a series about about the UK, about islands in the UK, and there's one episode that is about. It shows the irreparable damage of climate catastrophe. It shows it, and they've put that one just on the iPlayer. They're not going to air it because they've caved to pressure. It's really rough.
It is.
And I can't even with the anti. My household is working hard on the anti-trans legislation and talking about at this point we're now talking about Underground Railroad, how to get people out of unsafe places. It's bad. It's bad. It's really bad, and the willingness to demonize people who've never hurt you or anybody else. Based on total lack of evidence, absolute lack of evidence to support harm to children from the fact that I wear Carhartt overalls every day, right? There's legislation that actually that has been proposed, none of it has passed yet, that would actually criminalize the way I dress. I will recommend a book that I just finished reading called Less. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It's by Andrew Sean Greer, and it's about it's a story of a gay man who's about to turn 50 and whose younger lover has broken it off and is getting married to someone else. And so he says, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to sit around and let everybody feel sorry for me. I'm going to accept all of these invitations to speak and write articles and things. I'm going to just travel around the world, and it's great. Like I said, it won the Pulitzer. It's just great. It was a wonderful book to read. Awesome. So, Less by Andrew Sean Greer. Okay. So we're going to come back with the Frobisher story.
Yes.
The Holy Terror.
Yay! Yeah, that'll be, that's a good palette change. Mm-hmm. Pop out. That's a good one. Folks, if you'll notice that I haven't had off-week shows for a few weeks. I've only been doing these. It's just getting scheduled and line up guests. But I am lining up 2 guests. Mark's going to come back, and we're going to talk about all the Meep story comics. And I was lucky enough to be on Trap One to discuss the latest 2 sets of the Eighth Doctor, Liv and Helen, that are coming out, since they're not doing the big series of box sets anymore, which is in some ways great. But I did love all those big box sets. But Melvin, who was on that with me, he's going to come back, and me and him are going to talk some Paul McGann seasons. And I mentioned that I have made a list of what I consider the seasons, and he made a very kind comment, and I will read this, and I thought it was very funny because I said, well, I have created a list of what I consider the Paul McGann seasons, and me and Vic are using because that's what I said. I keep an episode guide with all our Big Finish combined with TV stories. And his response, that's called dedication. It's called Eyes on the Prize. So plan that. So that'll be coming up. And then Dave Steele from the Earth 2 Pineapple City Confident podcast is going to come on and talk Doctor Who. He's on a Doctor Who podcast. We got some fun stuff coming up. All right. Well, folks, that's it for this week. As always, we look forward to seeing you somewhere in time or space.